In this movie, we'll add a gradient fill to the background, and we'll lay down a couple of base strokes. And we'll see how stacking order here inside the appearance panel can affect the behavior of fill and stroke attributes along with dynamic effects. And if that sounds a little mysterious right now, believe me, it will make perfect sense in the end. All right, so I'll switch over to our document so far, and I'll make sure that the polygon is selected by pressing Control-A or Command-A on the Mac, and assuming that you're working in the most recent version of Illustrator CC, you should see the word polygon over here on the far left side of the control panel. All right, now our first step is going to be to build a gradient fill, and things are just going to work out better if we're working in the CMYK color space. And so I'm going to go up to the File menu, choose Document Color Mode, and then choose CMYK Color. All right, now what you want to do is make sure your fill is active by clicking on the fill item here inside the appearance panel, and then you want to go up to the window menu and choose Gradient to bring up the gradient panel. Now we need our gradient panel to be bigger than this, and so if yours is shallow like mine, go ahead and click this double up arrow icon a couple of times in order to make it nice and big, and then just go ahead and click on this gradient ramp right there in order to assign a dummy gradient, which by default is going to go from white to black. That, of course, is not what we want. So go ahead and double-click on this first color stop, this little guy below the gradient ramp, in order to bring up this color panel. And as opposed to viewing swatches, we want to see colors. So go ahead and click on this little palette icon. And then click on this flyout menu icon right there and switch to CMYK. And that'll give you the cyan, magenta, yellow, and black sliders. All right, we want the first one, C, to be 0, so leave it that way. And then we're going to change magenta to 85%. Tab to yellow and change it to 100%, and then tab to black and change it to 35%, like so. All right, now this last guy is currently black. We don't really want that, but I can't get rid of it yet because you have to have at least 2 color stops. So what you want to do, just for the sake of efficiency here, is Alt or Option drag this first color stop like so, and that'll make a duplicate of it. Then you can grab this black color stop and drag it downward to get rid of it. All right, now drag this guy all the way over to the right-hand side and double-click on it to once again bring up the CMYK values. Because we copied the first guy, our magenta and yellow values are just fine. All you need to do is crank the K value up to 100%. And that way, we're mixing 100% black ink along with 100% yellow and 85% magenta, which means we have a total of 285% ink, which is about as much as you want, and gives us this nice, rich, dark brown over here on the right-hand side of each one of the hexagons. All right, now we want to make a duplicate of this guy, so go ahead and Alt or Option drag it over to the left, and we're looking for a location value of 50%, so go ahead and enter that, and then double-click on this middle color stop, leave the magenta and yellow values alone once again, and change that K value, which represents black, to 75%, and press the Enter key or the Return key on the Mac to accept that change. All right, this is the gradient we're looking for, but we need to make one more modification, and that's to change the type from linear to radial, which gives us this effect here. All right, now we need to add a couple of strokes, so go ahead and click on the stroke item here inside the appearance panel, and we need a little bit more room to work, so go ahead and collapse that gradient panel once again, or better still, just go ahead and switch back to the stroke panel. And now I'm going to crank up this line weight value to 28 points in order to create these very thick strokes here. But this is not the color I'm looking for. You can click on this little color swatch there if you want to select a predefined color from your swatches panel. But that's not what we want to do. We want to dial in our own color. And so notice when I hover over this swatch up here, it tells me to hold the Shift key to bring up an alternate color UI. And that's what I want. So I'll go ahead and click in order to make that one go away, and Shift click in order to bring up my CMYK values. And I'm going to change the C value to 0. I'm going to change the magenta value, once again, to 85%, take the yellow value up to 100%, and take that black value up to 100% as well. So we're dialing in that rich, deep brown. All right, now we want to create another stroke, and you can do that by clicking on the Add New Stroke icon in the bottom left corner of the Appearance panel, or you can press Control-Alt/ or Command-Option/ on the Mac. All right, this time I want yellow, so I'm going to Shift-click once again on that little color swatch there to bring up the CMYK values, and I'm going to leave the cyan value alone, take the magenta value down to 35%, take the yellow value down to 85%, and take the K or black value down to 0%. And that'll give us this very bright yellow right here. All right, now I'll take that line weight value down to 8 points in order to produce this effect. All right, now as you can see, we've got some problems. We have these obvious seams between the strokes, and each and every one of the hexagons is filled with a radial gradient. What we want is this, seamless transitions between the strokes and one big radial gradient in the background. And to make that happen, we need to change the order of the attributes and the effects. And to make a long story short, you need to click on the first transform and shift-click on the last one. And then just go ahead and drag them and drop them on top of the attributes like so. And the reason this works out is this way. This is kind of weird the way things work in the appearance panel. They're a little bit upside down. This guy right here, if you click on it, he represents the very first transform effect we applied. And so rather than the first stuff being at the bottom, the first stuff is at the top. And so what's happening here as a result of dragging these effects to the top is that we're applying the effects first, and then we're adding the fill and stroke attributes, which is why before we had this effect, and now we have this one, where all the strokes are working out seamlessly. All right, the last thing I want you to do is to go up to the window menu and choose the transform command to bring up the transform panel. And assuming you're working in the most recent version of Illustrator CC, then you'll have the option of changing the corner radius right here. And I want you to take that value up to 20 points and press the Enter key or the Return key on the Mac to round off the corners of that first hexagon, which ends up creating this nice rounded honeycomb effect. And that's how you fill a shape with a radial gradient, as well as how you adjust the stacking order of attributes and dynamic effects here inside the appearance panel.